to the Keeping It Real with K podcast. Today I'm going to be discussing a little bit about me and a little bit about what I'm going to be discussing on these podcast episodes and why I even decided to start a podcast to begin with. And I'm also going to be providing a little bit of a story time at the end, so just try to hang in tight. Um, so I've been wanting to do this podcast for years now, but there was just so much going on at the time, and I was a full-time college student. There was a time where I was working full-time. I was a children's minister and a Bible study leader. So I just needed some mental time, just to kind of like take some take a step back and just kind of like relax because I had a lot on my plate, during college. So I am now out of college, so now I have some extra free time. So I'm going to try to upload one of these every week, maybe preferably on the weekends, but sometimes life be life, and so don't hold me to it. But yeah, so before we get into what I'll be discussing, I want to provide a little bit of background of myself. So if anyone that is listening now does not know me personally, they'll get to know me just by this brief statement or, you know, whatever I'm about to say. So my name is Kay. Some people call me KJ. I'm 23 years old and I was a college student at WKU and I transferred from a community college and excuse me I majored in political science and I minored in legal studies. And a goal that I have for myself is to be a family court lawyer. And I also want to be a legal analyst at some point. And there's some reasons I have for that, and I'll get into some of those today. But those are my passions that I have for what I want to do in my career. Another thing about me is I am a Christian. One thing that is super important to me is my faith, and that is something that I take very seriously. And there are going to be times that on these episodes where I'm going to reference God. So if that's not something that you want to hear about, then I don't suggest that you listen because that's what I'm going to be talking about in some of these episodes. So just prepare yourselves. I have a sister. I have two dogs. I love my family. They are some people that I value. I value my friends. I have some of the best friends. I cannot even explain, the amount of people that have been in my circle for the past few years that have accepted me for who I am on my good days, my bad days. They have heard me when I needed someone to listen to, and they've just accepted me for who I am despite my flaws. So I'm so grateful for my family and friends that have done that for me. So yeah. But on this podcast, I'm going to be discussing a variety of different topics. There's going to be some times that I'm going to come on here and kind of give my opinion on what I see in the news. If I feel that the news is valid or not, well, I'm not going to talk about anything that's not real or valid, but there's going to be times I'm going to come in here and give my perspective on everything. And there's also going to be times, probably more times than not, that I'm going to come in here and just talk about what the Lord has put on my heart to talk about. I'm not going to make these episodes very political. I'm going to really try my best not to do that. Excuse me. But one thing that I will do is if I feel there is going to be a podcast I'm going to upload that's going to be a touchy subject, I'm going to post about it beforehand on my social medias. So that way you listen, and you'll also see it in the title what I'm going to be discussing. So if it's something that you feel that you don't want to hear, you don't have to listen. One thing that I want to create is a safe space for people to just talk and listen to each other, because I feel like that's what we need. It's just someone to listen, or someone just to understand where we're coming from. And there may be times that you don't agree with what I'm going to say, and that's completely okay. I'm not here for you to agree with me, and I'm not here for you to, you know, whatever I say, you just have to go with it. You can disagree if you want, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, you know. So, and the reason why I wanted to start a podcast now is because I have so much free time now. Like now, since I'm getting back into the full time job experience, I'm kind of living out the adult life now since I'm not in school. And so I'm just trying to figure things out right now. And I'm still pursuing law school in the future. But um, that'll happen when there's more money that can come out of my bank account. Um, some people ask me, why family law? Why do you want to be a legal analyst? Well, family law, I have some personal reasons why I want to, get into that, but I'll get into that some other time. But for the legal analyst thing, I want to be a legal analyst because I feel like there's so many things going on in the world today, especially in our country, where we just feel so unsettled, and we just need someone to just like listen or just provide a healthy perspective. So, and I can't promise to, make all your fears go away, but I want the space to be like a space where you can tune out of that and, you know, just come here and kind of get a break from that. But whenever there's times that I do talk about political things, you just feel free to, not listen to that if you cannot mentally handle it, because I understand there are some things that it's so much just to take in. And every time that there's a story, well, let me not say every time, there's some things that go on in the news that just touch me personally, and I try to analyze that from what I know, from what I've learned, and what I've lived through. So that's part of why I want to be a legal analyst. And I just feel like sometimes when someone asks me a law question, like the nerd in me comes out. So, we'll just see where the Lord, leads me. So I also just I do like gaming too. That's another thing that I like. I am specifically addicted to Mario games. Anything Mario, and I like Sonic too. I like those types of games. And I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but based off of what my friend told me when he saw my playtime on the Nintendo Switch, I don't know. I think I beg to differ, but anyway. So there's a lot of things that I'm interested in, and particularly the law is just something that I grew to like. And as a kid, I remember there'd be times that I would just want to stand up for people who were being taken advantage of or who were being mistreated. And then I don't even know, because when I was a kid, and I feel like this goes for a lot of kids, I could be super wrong, but as a kid, I felt that I should have been a doctor. And I think it was just based off of what my family was telling me about the money. But then as I grew up, I was like, you know what? I don't like blood. I don't want to be a doctor. So then I wanted to be an engineer, and because I thought that was for me because I was super good at math. I'm still pretty good at math. I remember when I started going to public school, I actually put engineering as a major or something I was interested in. That changed really, really quickly. And to be quite honest, I can't even remember what caused the shift, but I soon wanted to become a lawyer because, like I said, I really noticed that I want to stand up for the people who are being mistreated or taken advantage of. So I grew to learn to like law. And I took a law and justice class in high school. And I was like, you know what? I think I made the right decision. And so ever since then, I've been interested in law. And then later down the line, when I started to learn about the different types of law, I was like, yeah, I think family law might be for me. But like I said, I will dive deeper into that in another episode. But I just appreciate the friends that have really backed me up when I was in school, when I was going to college. And that's part of what I'm going to get into today. I'm wanting to discuss my college experience. And I'm going to touch on some of the parts because if I were to go through everything, we would need a day, and I don't have all day. So, um, I'm gonna kind of discuss my feelings going into college, and then just kind of touch slightly go into a few stories, and then I'm going to kind of lead it back to why I am the person I am today. And I remember when I was in high school, I did not know anything about college. I was just thinking college was just something that everyone does after high school. Um, so I remember me and my sister, we had this person that we talked to, and she would come every week, and she was supposed to be helping us navigate high school as visually impaired students, and which she did. When I say suppose, I'm not trying to be shady, but I say suppose because she was just such a sweet lady. Like there were times that she came in to talk to me about something, and I would just have to tell her about my day, tell her about life, and she would just be there to listen. She was just someone that I really adored, and I still adore to this day. She's the best. And my point in mentioning her is when I was talking about college, she recommended that I start off at a community college because I didn't know if that was something that I wanted to do, college. Um, so I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. Um, so I applied there, and then I also applied for another school because I was wanting to be a lawyer, like I stated earlier. But once I saw the tuition rate for the other school, which was a private school, I was like, I think I'm fine. So I decided to go to community college. I didn't know if it was for me, but I was like, you know what, I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll drop out. I I was not going to drop out either way because I'm not the type of person to quit if I don't do well in something. I'm just not that type of person. I'm very determined, and I'm just determined to do something until I get it. Um I remember my first day in college, very first day. I remember walking into this dark room because it was a classroom. I got there so early because I can't remember. Oh yeah, I had an 8 a.m. class. Um, I got there really early and the lights were off. And I turned the lights on, and there's this guy sitting in there. He was like, "What up?" I was like, "Hi." And then he introduced himself to me. And this was still during this was like post COVID. So everyone was still wearing masks, and so like when he introduced himself, I was like, "Hello." I was thrown off because I was like, I'm not used to people just talking to me right off like the get go. Um, so I thought we were gonna become friends, but there was some drama that happened because he was special needs, and there was times that he would interrupt the teacher. And I understand, some people can't help it. Um, I thought we were going to become friends, but he started to stir up drama in the classroom with another student who was a trans student. And the student, I think, I don't know, I don't want to get into that, but they got into this big blow up. And then this guy that I started talking to, he was like, well, I'm going to go tell the president. I'm going to go tell the president. So he basically told the president what was going on in the class. And then for some reason, my name was brought up. This didn't happen all on the first day. This just happened as the semester went on. Um, so I don't know why my name was brought up, but for some reason he brought me up. I didn't get in trouble or anything, but I just was like, I didn't even do anything. So I don't even know what he's talking about. But ever since then, he never showed up to class. I think my first bi term there, I don't think I made any friends. And like, I was okay with that because college, I had to learn that the hard way. College was nothing like high school. Like they tried to warn us in high school, and I had to find out for myself. And I'm not saying that it was hard, but it was a transition. Like you're going from bells, telling you when to go to class, to no bells, and then you're going from no scheduled lunchtime to getting your own lunch, things like that. So, my first bi term, I didn't make friends, but my second bi term, I did make some friends, and there was actually a girl that graduated with me from high school. I never spoke to her, but we became friends, and she was in my class, and I really started to enjoy that place. I did. And then I met geez, I don't want to get this wrong, but I do. Yeah, it was the first semester. I was part of the cultural diversity office at our school, and I was an ambassador. And my job was basically to tell other students about the office and, tell them the benefits and things like that, and explain to them how much they would learn from it. And like, that office was also meant to create a space for people to just like de-stress, if they needed to, which in college you might need to. But during that, I met one of my best friends that I still have to this day. And if he listens, if he's listening to this, there's I remember the first time meeting him, I never thought that we would be friends because I'm the type of person, if you don't match my personality, I don't know if we're going to get along. So we started going on these trips together in the office, and then I slowly started to kind of come closer to him. And so, yeah, and ever since then we've been good friends, but I'll talk about him a little bit more later in the future. But yeah, so basically my first semester there, it was an experience. I actually enjoyed it. It really taught me a lot about the adult life and like handling things on your own, being independent. I really am so glad that I made that choice to go there first. Um, I was asked to be in a video, to basically promote the school. I really was grateful for that opportunity. And I was just well liked. I don't know what I did to be well liked, but I enjoyed it there. I really did. When my time was up 2 years later, I was so devastated because I knew the next place I was gonna go was not gonna be anything like it. I had to really prepare for it because like not only was it gonna be a different experience, well, it was also gonna leave home, and I was going to leave home for the first time. And I was 20 by the time that I went to this other college. And let me tell you, that was an experience. And I'm glad that I had the 2 years, of community college. So I basically could learn how college would be. So I'm grateful for that. Um, and it really helped me lean into going into a public university with over, you know, 10,000 students. Um, so after I left the community college, of course, I was sad because I made a lot of friends, and I was leaving home, and I just knew that. Well, sorry, let me take that back. I didn't know this, but I was really expecting when I went to the university that it was going to be so much like the community college, like in the community. Like I knew it was going to be a lot more people, but everyone at the community college was just so sweet. Everywhere you turn, someone was saying hi, waving. I could just go stop by and see my friends, and like whenever I had a break in between classes, things like that. I enjoyed it there. So I walked into the university thinking I was gonna have a similar experience, and boy was I wrong. Um, I walked into that university, and I remember I took a few tours, but those tours only do so much because when you're actually there, and you have to start taking classes and things like that, those tours you can barely remember where you went. Like when I went, because there's this week that you basically get a feel of like how campus is going to be like. You get to meet your hall staff, stuff like that. You get to take a tour of your classes, where your classes will be. And so that helped. But when it came to the first day of classes, that everything that I talked about, I forgot. I was lost. I just remember running into this one guy who he was a pastor at a church, and he was basically promoting his church, basically inviting people to go. And so I ran into him. I was like, "Excuse me, where am I?" And so because I was lost, like I was like, I decided to make a dumb choice and say, you know what, I'm gonna just go walk, try to see if I can find my class on my own. Because like I said, I walked into there only having one friend, one, and the one friend was someone that transferred from the school that I went to previously. And so there were times that he helped me, but then there was times that I just was like, you know what? I need to try to do this on my own because I got to do it on my own soon anyway. So I decided to make a dumb decision, just go take a tour by myself and then get lost. So thankfully that pastor pointed me in the right direction, so in the dorms we had a roommate. I had a roommate, and then we had two other people that were in another room that was connected by the bathroom, and I wasn't super close to them, honestly. No, well, let me not even be dramatic. I wasn't close to them at all. And because I didn't know them. Like we talked in the group chat, we snapped a few times, but never met in person. So, like, when it was the first night, I was sleeping in the room with someone that I did not know from a can of paint. So, it was just awkward. It really was awkward. As time went on, I started to kind of adjust to them, and I befriended one of the guys in the other room, and we ended up becoming roommates. And I'm not going to expand on that because that ended up being drama. I might get into that in another episode, but not this one. So, but we ended up becoming friends, and so he gave me a tour, and I was like, I think I got it now because we walked through our classes. And so when Monday came, when it was the first day, I don't know how I did it, but somehow I remembered. But I remember my first day, First day going to class, I started freaking out because when I left, I thought that I left the dorm room unlocked. I was like, no, not the first day. But it turns out I didn't. Um, and then the campus is like, I was living on the bottom of the hill, and most of my classes were at the top of the hill. And you only have like a 15-minute period in between classes. So my first day was rough. I somehow made it to my first class, then got lost going to my second one, and then somehow I got to my third one that day. So my first day, it was rough. The second day was easier because both classes were in the same building, thankfully. I just had to find out what I was going to do in between the classes because I had a 4 hour gap in between the classes. So I was like, I'm not just going to walk around because it's like I was still new to the campus. So I didn't want to just go out exploring, and then end up getting lost. Um, so later that night, I went to a campus ministry because, like I said earlier, faith is a super important thing for me. And so I went to campus ministry just to see if I'd like it. And it was called the BCM, also known as the Baptist Campus Ministry. And when I walked in there was a guy, and he was so nice to me. And I still talk to him to this day. He was so kind. He introduced himself, and he basically wanted to get to know me a little bit. And I of course responded, but um, I was just thrown off because nothing against him, but I was so new, so I don't know, I just felt like I needed to fit in. So he introduced me to these other guys who ended up becoming my friends, and one of the guys was like, "Do you have a church down here?" I was like, "No." And so he said, "Well, you should come to my church." And he said, "We can get someone from here to basically drive you there." I was like, "Oh, okay." So he introduced me to him. Um, and so we started talking and meeting up every now and then. And he he um he took me to church. And before we got out the car, he said, "Well, just so you know, this is a very culturally diverse church. So some of the songs that we sing will be in Spanish, and then there's going to be sometimes in the midst of the songs, we're going to sing the last part in Spanish, but begin the song in English." So we basically got out of the car, and I was like, "Well, I don't know how to sing or really talk in Spanish." So he's just like, "Go with it." So I did. Everyone at the church was nice, and I happened to make a couple friends there. And one of the guys that was sitting next to me also went to my school, and he was like, "Hey, well, I have this Bible study group that I do on Tuesdays, and it's called D Group, which stands for Discipleship Group." Okay, and I was like, "Okay, well, what about it?" And he was like, "Well, you should join." And I was like, "Well, okay, I'll give it a chance." I went that Tuesday, and one of the guys that were there already, I've seen previously, a week prior in one of the buildings, and I didn't speak to him because, like I said, I was new. I didn't really want to speak to anyone, but he actually ended up becoming one of my closest friends. So it sometimes be like that. And then there was this other guy in the group. He's nice too. He's also one of my closest friends. So that group really really helped me because I had people saying, "Well, D group, you're gonna really meet your people. You're gonna really meet the people that you're gonna, you know, be close friends with." I said, "I'll see about that." But it happened. They got used to me coming in every now and then and complaining about my day. And so those were the people I really needed in my circle. I really needed people that were willing to accept me for me. And those were the people that did. And so I was lucky to have them from then all the way up to when they graduated last year. So, and I still have them as friends now. So I'm thankful that the Lord led me there. There's some pros and cons about that place. And but that was definitely one pro. Another pro was there's this thing called freshman family groups. Now, when I transferred, I was not a freshman, but I had some people tell me, "Well, you're a first year student, so you should try to go check it out." So I did. The leader, he was super super nice. I still talk to him to this day. I was really grateful to have him. He had two co-leaders. I'm close to them too. Now the people in the group, there's some people that I've kind of drifted away from because I just believe that when you grow, as you grow both physically and spiritually, you kind of learn and see that you don't need certain people in your life anymore because some people are just there. Like me in a friendship, I want someone that's going to help build me up. But if you're doing more judging and tearing me down, or you're doing more, not even trying to build a connection with me, I'm going to distance. And so, there's some people in that group I don't associate with anymore. Um, but I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to experience those groups. And those were my friends. Those Some of those people are still my friends. And so I'm grateful that the Lord led me to that. And they really helped me grow my faith because before I went there, I was saying that I was going to backslide because everyone was telling me that the school I was going to was a party school. And so I was like, oh no, I hope that's not going to, cause me to drift away from God. But I'm just grateful that I had people that were there to hold me accountable. A lot of people in my group, a lot of people that I have in my friend group now and family, they know how to hold me accountable in a respectful way. So I'm so grateful for those people. I'm grateful for the people that stuck by my side from the time I started college up till now. And I'm just so thankful for the friends that the Lord has put into my life. And yeah, so I think it's just really important for us to just cherish the people that we have in our lives. And there's some days that there's some friends that I have that I legitimately question, is this who God wants me to be around? And there are just some days where I'm just like, you know what? I feel like it's not even worth it. Because like I said, when you grow physically and spiritually, sometimes the Lord is gonna, you know, I feel like sometimes the Lord is gonna place it in your heart to just have discernment. And I just feel like as you grow, there's just some people you don't need anymore. And like, if most of your conversation with me is going to be about gossiping or bragging or something where you're just talking about yourself, but you're not trying to get to know me more, I'm just wondering if this friendship is really worth it. And like, I've gotten to the point to where I don't want to keep fighting over a friendship that's not really worth fighting for. So something that I'm going to work on myself is I'm going to work on using discernment, using wisdom to decide who it is that needs to be in my life and who doesn't. Because, like I said, if those people aren't helping you grow, and if those people aren't helping you in your relationship with God, and it's causing you more pain than happiness, it might be time to let them go. And so I say that just to say, I encourage the people listening to do that in their own personal lives. Think about someone who you think is not a true friend. because if you're thinking it, they're probably not a true friend. Well, that's all that I have for this episode, and I know I kind of danced around a lot of things, but that's part of who I am. There's sometimes that I drift off subject, and there's sometimes that I stay on subject. But I hope something in this episode made you smile. I hope something in this episode made you think. And I'm just hoping that you stick around to watch, or no, not watch, but listen to the future episodes that's going to be coming out in the future. I appreciate you all, and I thank you all. And I just want you all to look at my social medias, my Instagram, Snapchat, and just stay tuned for future dates on when I'm going to post these, okay? So, thank you all and have a great rest of your day. Hello, and welcome to the Keeping It Real with K podcast. Today I'm going to be